Alright. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Game and Compute. Here on this podcast, we talk about economic topics, finances, money, side hustles, income, career, school. And so today I wanted to talk just a little bit about, just some ideas for people who are kind of like into creating content. And so just some kind of helpful tips. So yeah, just right now I'm kind of on a bit of a little work break. It's later in the day today, but we're supposed to schedule our lunches before 2, but I feel like I tend to need a break like later in the day most of the time, and so I don't really want to schedule like that early before like around 1:30. So I log my lunches as 1:30 p.m., but I actually kind of take them closer to like 3:30-ish, 3:20-ish. So this is my kind of lunch break. I take like a 10-minute break midday, a 10-minute break earlier in the day. And then my lunch break I prefer to have later, but I actually ate already. Like I eat while I work, like while I'm on hold, and so it doesn't really count as like my full lunch break. So if you're wondering how I can record during my shift, that's kind of how I get away with doing that. Is I'm not trying to steal company time or anything, but I just try to do what naturally works for me. I find when I eat lunch during the like midday, like 1:30 or so, my energy kind of crashes a little bit. Like I'm snacking most of the day, so like because I snack a lot, I don't really feel the need to be like eating like too much. But yeah, so for today, I wanted to talk about just some tips. One thing that's really helpful, that I even forgot that I do this, but I started watching the iced coffee hour. I'm noticing I'm not really fully caught up with a lot of the podcasts that I usually watch that are kind of weekly uploads, but I started watching iced coffee hour, the most recent one from this week, and I realized there is something that I actually do that they were mentioning. So the guy they were interviewing, he was mentioning how he just like writes down ideas in his phone. And now this might sound silly. I mean, I know it's kind of like a basic idea, but I got out of that habit and actually started getting into a habit of writing things down on like the back of business cards, little pieces of paper, and sticking them in my wallet, and like post-it notes, and like kind of trying to remember to stick them in my wallet. Now I used to do that before. That's what I started doing. Usually because I was in the middle of work when I had ideas, and it would just be like the closest thing to me was a post-it note or one of my business cards. And so I would just write on it and then throw it in the back of my, in my wallet. And you guys probably remember I used to record in the car very often. And so I'd always have my wallet because it had my driver's license, and I'd drive down the street and record a lot of the times, because there was like a shaded spot where I could park. And so I preferred that instead of sitting in front of the house for like 2-3 hours, because that was awkward, because I was sharing the house with people, and like they probably knew I was sitting out there the whole time, and it just got awkward for me. And then I didn't like recording with the windows open, and it would be really hot, so I would go to that spot and have my wallet. And the little idea lists that I had on little pieces of paper, but I noticed a difference between when I did that then and how I kind of reverted back to doing that now, and I don't like doing it now. Like, the difference then was that I was writing the ideas that I mostly used during that day or the next day, versus now I'm writing them as ideas just for, like, to have like a list of ideas to come into when I don't have anything specific on my mind to record, or anything pressing to kind of record on, and then I don't really come back to it. So I'm noticing, even as I'm like, sitting here, I've got something on my nightstand, something on my windowsill, something on my desk, some other stuff that I think is in my wallet. I think I have something else in the car. It's like I have all these little notes everywhere, and then it kind of just brought it back to my memory when I saw the episode of Iced Coffee Hour. So let me get the actual name of that. So they were interviewing Daniel Thrasher. The episode's called Building a Multi-million-dollar Business from $0. So his backstory, which is cool, is that he's a music, he was kind of musically trained in high school, and his main goal seemed to be to go into like acting. Musically trained in high school. I think he mentioned playing in like marching band, jazz band, and he does a lot of ideas with skits. He has a team of maybe like 7 other people who help with his business, and I mean, check him out. He's an entrepreneur. He's a young Hollywood guy, trying to get into some major acting roles, but he's mentioned he doesn't really need to. I'm only about a little more than a third of the way through his interview with Graham Stephan and Jack on Iced Coffee Hour, but I'm basically just talking about the tips that he mentioned in there because I find it to be pretty interesting. He's got a lot of tips that are pretty helpful. I kind of just like seeing how other people organize and get their stuff together for ideas. Now, if you have several podcasts or several, different types of channels or platforms you record on, I think it's best to kind of have it organized with different accounts. One thing that I do is I have separate accounts. So I usually have like a Gmail account for every single category of things. So say if I have multiple podcasts, every podcast has its own Gmail account. And with that Gmail account, I have a Google Drive account. And with the Google Drive account, I'll usually have folders. And so it depends if I have like a blog or just stuff that I have, like photos that I might want to upload or video clips that I might want to upload. And I prefer to just save them in there. And it's just kind of easier for me. Because then sometimes I might actually use it. Like, I don't usually go into the Google Drive files, but because I do keep it pretty simple on here, but every so often I get like the desire to kind of do something a little bit different, and that's when I might pull from those files and just be like, oh, like I do want to put like a blog post up with like a YouTube video clip, and like, I like Google because, you get Google Drive, it's good for storage, you can, you can have a YouTube channel. It's also, Google with YouTube or whatever. It's all connected with the same like username and passwords, and so it's pretty easy. And usually on my laptop, I have Windows, and I usually use Google Chrome and as a browser, and I usually have each of my, I have different Chrome browser tiles open at the bottom of my desktop, and I usually just have each individual one already signed in to whatever it is, so that I don't have to keep like popping back and forth and trying to like remember all the passwords and stuff. Now, when you do have to reset your computer, because Windows updates a little too often for my preferences, honestly, but when you do have to reset your computer, you do end up having to go in there and log back into everything. So if I have like 4 tiles open, that means that, you know, I have to go in and put in like 4 again. But then it just makes it just that much easier. If I need to do something, I can just open my computer and it's already there. Like, you know, I log into my computer, but once I'm logged into my computer, everything's already signed in. Now, if you have security issues or any kind of issue like that, I would, you know, you never really know. So it is kind of risky if somebody were to like steal my laptop or something and figure out how to log in. Like, everything's already logged in. But I prefer to just have it that way, just because it's just an ease thing. And I know that I'm not gonna go out of my way to be like, look up the passwords, and the passwords are in, you know, in my phone, and like it just becomes a little bit annoying for me. And so it's annoying enough for me that I would rather just not log in and do whatever I was gonna do. It kind of just deters me from actually doing the tasks, just because it's just a little tedious to be like logging into like all these different things. And so I just have it organized that way. And then when I'm doing something outside of that, I have like a 5th tile open, this Google Chrome that's just like my general Google stuff. So my general YouTube that I'm usually logged into, where I'm watching stuff or buying, I have YouTube Premium, and like if I'm buying movies or shows, or I mean, I'm not doing that all the time, but whatever, that's my own personal entertainment one. And if I do upload just on my own personal channel, then I'll put it up there, but I hardly upload at all anymore, honestly. And then the other ones are more like niche, like this podcast here. So that's kind of how I go about just kind of organizing things. And I'm gonna definitely get all my notes together from all these little pieces of paper that are all over the dang place, and try to gather them and get my notes into my phone, so that I'm not losing ideas. Because sometimes once I have an idea, I honestly can't remember it again. Another habit that I got into that's also not helpful is that I write things on my work notes. You know how you have notebook paper? So for work, I have notebook paper, like those, you know, the ones with the binding at the top of the notebook. And so I have those types of paper notebooks, and I tend to write my notes like either at the very bottom line, that line that's not like a full height of a line to write on. I usually skip writing on that for work, and then write just notes for the day on there. And then I have other places at the top. You know how you have like about like 1.5 inches at the top? I write on there too. And so I feel like that's a little disorganized. Like it's not helpful for me to be really writing stuff like that, because I lose basically ideas. I lose a lot of my ideas that way. And you know, I'm like, I know it was a good idea, but I don't even like remember it at all sometimes. And then I'm just like, I mean, there's no way I'm gonna remember this stuff, because I was, you know, working, I was busy, and I was in the middle of something, and you know, started, you know, like I was basically in the middle of something else. And so yeah, like that's kind of my most recent tips that I would say might be the most helpful for people. would be to kind of look at things in that way. Try to get it at least a little organized on the brainstorming side, so that you can actually be able to, find your notes. Like, one problem that I have with consistency, not only with the time management and just the energy and like motivation, but say I have all that, but I just don't have the ideas, right? So sometimes I just can't think of an idea, but I have all the motivation and desire in the world to like record something new, post something new, but I just don't have anything. And so it does help to just have it all in one place. Like, it's almost like, you know how they tell you, like, for like work organization, like when you're working and like, or scheduling, like say you schedule doctor's appointments for yourself, right? Or some kind of important appointments, and you have a phone calendar and like a paper calendar on your wall or something. It's not really that good to have two calendars, because sometimes what happens is you write information on one calendar and then you don't write it on the other, and that's just a prime way to just forget appointments. Kind of the same thing with the little notes of ideas. They'll come to you just naturally throughout the day, and then when you have like a dry spell, like the dry spell with the motivation, you'll have ideas that you can just pull from, and they don't even have to be like full, like lengthy titles, you know what I mean? Like, it can be just like kind of basic stuff, but just like a sentence, or like whatever you would title that episode. That's one way to do it. But alright, I'm about ready to actually log out from work now, and I hope that was helpful, and thanks for listening.